I also have a suggestion from...
this is from the concerns about HIV, Amy Bloom.
Okay, that's 4C, and it is to replace the phrase beginning and that it addresses, so it's the, so it would read like this: ensuring, first original text, ensuring a comprehensive framework for management and care of MXDR-TB is developed, including community-based care, and then it should say identifying the groups most vulnerable to and at risk of drug-resistant TB and its impact, including people living with HIV, prisoners, mine workers, mobile populations, drug users, and other marginalized groups, and ensuring that services to prevent and treat drug-resistant TB are targeted to their needs. Yes, please. Is it on this issue? Then we have to wait, so we'll deal with this first, but I'll come back to you. Yes, President Sampaio.
I just would prefer to have the word vulnerable and not the word marginalized. I think it's probably more correct with the general spirit that these meetings have. So vulnerable is for me more correct.
It's nodding from the authors we hear, so would we agree to this amendment? Do you want me to read it again? Because it was quite a long text and I didn't read it very well, I realized that. So no. It would read, ensuring a comprehensive framework for management and care of MXDR-TB is developed, including community-based care. Identifying the groups most vulnerable to and at risk of drug-resistant TB and its impact, including people living with HIV, prisoners, mine workers, mobile populations, drug users, and other vulnerable groups, and ensuring that the services to prevent and treat drug-resistant TB are targeted to their needs.
Here.
So we have an agreement to make that revision of 4C. I think we have addressed all the issues that have been raised. Which one is left? Yes, please.
Yeah, I don't want to take time because I know people are tired, but I want to go back to the airborne infection control. I'm Bess Miller. I'm chair of the infection control sub-working group, and I wanted to agree with Dr. Chauhan that I think unfortunately in many of our countries, general infection control has not addressed TB infection control. We've worked very hard with WHO's respiratory group to include all of airborne infection control. I think to eliminate that would be to dilute this recommendation and deflect from what we're really trying to get the attention. So I would prefer to go back to the way it is.
Would it be possible to read something like ensuring that national infection control policies, comma, particularly airborne, or with a focus on airborne infections, are developed?
I'd be glad to try and develop a couple of words that would...
You will do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's not the outstanding.
Can you please add to 4C, where these are the vulnerable groups, also alcoholics? If there were intravenous drug users, poor people living with HIV and alcoholics.
Excuse me, could you repeat? The votes 4C?
4C, yes, where you had the list of all these vulnerable people.
Yeah.
To add to the list alcoholics.
Excuse me, could you be a bit quiet? I have a bad hearing, you see. Yeah.
Could you please add to the list 4C, where you had the list of vulnerable people, alcoholists also?
Including alcoholists too, yeah. And drug users, alcoholics, and other vulnerable groups.
Yes. Thank you.
I think that should be okay. Yes, please. What is outstanding? Do we need to address that? I thought they were...
你好，我是来自中国公益慈善组织女娃抗艾滋病结合和疟疾亚太联盟。我建议增加一条呼吁专利药品生产商再向发展中国家进行药品生产专利的转让，以减轻发展中国家患者的医药费用。好，谢谢。
If we want to add a para on intellectual property, I think that's an important area, and it's a lot of discussion about this. I think this would be very difficult at this stage to include and get a complete consensus at this forum. But your point is taken that it is an issue that needs to be discussed in the future, but we might want to leave it out for this document.
Okay, mine relates to reporting systems in country, which has a bearing on the global picture. I don't see it reflected in either one of the points here. If it is reflected, I beg your indulgence, but I think it's an important point that we need to mention to say the reporting systems in country needs to be strengthened in order to reflect the true global picture of the MDR incidents. Thank you.
I think this is a valid point about the reporting. I will ask Paul to look into it and see if we can have, either if it's covered or if we can have a wording to include. Meanwhile, I think we have covered most of the comments. With still one half outstanding, and it's about the issue, the travel restrictions we agreed we should address in other documents and in other fora. I just want to check with the US if you had some wording under the 4G that you would want to add at this stage, or if you would agree to the 4G wording for the time being, and then maybe bring up the other issues, as I said, in other documents and in other fora.
Thank you. Yes, I would agree to leave this as it is. Acknowledge, as you've already done, the need to include this, and I would vote to move it to become part of the resolution that will come in front of the World Health Assembly. And I would try to capture language along the lines of ensuring international infection control measures are developed and implemented, perhaps in manners consistent with the international health regulations, and make reference to the World Health Assembly resolution on that from 2005.
Thank you very much, Julius. I really appreciate your flexibility and also your looking at also other opportunities to raise this issue. And particularly since I'm not going to chair the World Health Assembly, I'm very happy that we would leave it for the time being.